Today, I'm going to welcome Suzanne Adams to the show. She is a seasoned speaker who has taken the mic to NBC and Fox, as well as other stages around the country. Suzanne Adams is creating a powerful ripple effect of inspiration and positivity. Suzanne is also a best-selling author, transformational coach, and strategist, and she has impacted millions through her speaking, books, events, and programs across the globe. Probably my favorite thing about Suzanne is she is a thought leader in personal development, manifesting, and leadership. And she is all about helping you reach your highest potential and attract your dreams. And as you guys know, I'm big on the law of attraction and manifesting. And we have been doing a multi-series on what the law of attraction is, how to become a manifester of your dreams. Welcome to the show, Suzanne. All right, Suzanne, I am so glad and excited for this topic today and to bring you in as the resident expert when it comes to understanding how energy affects the people, the circumstances, the opportunities that come into our life. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am pleased and honored and thrilled to be here.
I have to tell my listeners that it's so funny. I started studying this topic 20 years ago when I was living paycheck to paycheck, flat broke, coming out of a toxic relationship, drove my wonderful $2,000 car that to this day was the best car I owned because it was paid for. And I have shared some of this in the previous few episodes, just like what my journey has been when I started to understand that I was a co-creator with the universe. But the reason I'm saying this is I came across you somehow. This is how divine intervention works. I'm always into like spiritual retreats. Like, where can I go where I can do even deeper dives on myself and raise my potentiality even higher? And somehow I came across yours, and you were doing it at the Enchantment Resort in Sedona, which I had been there. And at the time, I think I opted out just because I was scared to spend the money. I wasn't quite ready to make that kind of investment in myself. And then we fast forward 4 years later, and you and I are now having an interview, and you're sitting in front. I have to tell you guys, she's in Laguna Beach, and I'm literally watching the ocean waves behind her back just come in and go out.
Yes, it's amazing the journey and how we end up, and how it's interesting how we're drawn to the people that we're supposed to connect with, and whether we connect in that moment or whether it's a few years later, when it's meant to be. It always happens, for sure. Speaking of law of attraction, right?
That's how it works. Yeah. That's so when I had put out on Facebook that I was looking for some other manifestation experts, and you had responded, and I had a lot of responses, and I'm going to be interviewing some others along the way, but I had one spot for this year left to talk about this topic. And I'm like, I'm going with Suzanne because the dots keep lining up over and over again. So I want you to I want us to back this story out and tell us where your life was before you discovered that you can connect with energy and create the life that feels really good to you from the inside out.
Yeah. So, Kim, similar to you, I was at my dark night of the soul. I was searching constantly for things to fill me up, searching through romantic relationships, searching through career achievements, searching through the validation and opinions of others. And I know that many listening can relate to that when we need the other person to tell us that we're on the right track. And so for me, I had stumbled into this depression, and I did not feel good. And I was pushing down all of the emotions that were so desperately wanting to come up and out of my body. And I started numbing. And we numb in a million different ways. My numbing in that time was wine. And I would drink a glass of wine to take the edge off. And it felt normal because everyone had a glass of wine to take the edge off. And then I'd have another glass of wine, and whatever it took till I didn't feel. And then the next day would roll around and I wouldn't feel good. And I would make myself wait until 5 o'clock. And it was like, I started to think like there has to be more to like to what I'm experiencing, what is happening. And after a few months of numbing every single day with wine, I started to know that this isn't really who I was. And I started to feel more and more disconnected. And one day, I was staring at the clock, and I always say that this had to be divine intervention because it was a 10-minute 4:59, and it was so long that it made me sit and listen and feel. As I was waiting, I was staring at the clock and I was waiting, and I started to feel, and I heard this voice from the deep bottom pit of my stomach telling me like, what are you doing? You were meant for so much more. There was so much more to life. What are you doing? And in that moment, I fell to my knees and I looked up to the sky, and tears just came streaming down my face. And I said, show me the way. I am ready. And in that moment, it was a quantum shift in my own energy field, and it was an awakening. And I went into the kitchen, I threw away the wine, and I got busy. I started calling energy healers that I had met at spas because I wasn't awakened and I didn't really know what they were. But I was like, that woman that did that thing with my chakra something, I need her. And I found her, and she started to really help me understand my own calling and my own purpose, and what energy is, and what frequency and vibration mean, and how we have it in our bodies, and how we can truly create. And Kim, that was the beginning of me feeling passionate and lit up and connected. And that was the beginning of me creating a movement and really coming into my purpose and my mission. And this is my favorite thing to talk about. So I'm so happy to be here.
I can tell because your face is lit up, and I don't want to scare people too off of this, because I can really be woo-woo-y now because I have embraced my own spirituality. And when you just told the story of your dark night of the soul, I don't know if you know, but I have a similar story, and I say the same language. So I'm almost wondering if our two souls have fractaled off and are living these like parallel lives, because for me, my moment was when I was in the midst of struggling with panic disorder, not feeling safe in my body, suffering every 10 minutes of every day, and being on the bath mat. And I too had that. And I always say, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was an invitation. I don't know if I heard a voice, but whatever it was, it said, Kimberly, get up off that bath mat because you are made for more. And I use that same wording. And I find it so interesting that, so many people have had to overcome very hard things in their lives. And for me, and those things looked a little bit differently, but I- I'm, I don't wish my journey of suffering on anyone, because it was so
Mhm.
terribly hard. But I also can see that that is the very thing that set me on my path to opening myself up to this world of spirituality in a way that I wouldn't have without that. And I think you are saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of your listeners are resonating with this and saying, that's me too, because, I actually wrote a book, Girl Awaken, about my awakening. It's a fictional book, and I'm using air quotes because it was inspired by my own awakening, but it was written with the intention to shift consciousness in a fun and magical way. And the reason I'm sharing this is because you won't believe my inbox of people that say like, that story is about me. You wrote this about me. And I'm like, well, actually I wrote it about me, but the intention is that each one of us can identify with the character in the book, because we all, even though we all have very different stories, it's the same. It's the human version of a beautiful soul that has to come into her own in her own way. And unfortunately, there's a lot of similarities to that, because we can wake up through inspiration, or we can wake up through pain, and most of us, it takes the pain to get
Yeah.
there. And so yes, I love what you said about how we have similar stories, and I think there's a lot of us, especially that are awakened and learning and seekers, that have had a very similar story. And so that's the power, and that's how we can share to hopefully prevent so many others from having to go down the road of pain, and maybe can start to listen and awaken a little more through inspiration.
Yeah, I think that's a great outlook. I was in Vermont last year at this time. I wrote the first 12 chapters of my book, 28,000 words. I cranked it out in 2.5 weeks. I was in the
Amazing.
mountains in a remote cabin by myself with my dog. And I have really been the last year kind of shaming myself because I haven't written one word since then. But but I've also I'm myself going through another struggle in my life and having to apply a whole new skill set that I've needed to learn. And my epiphany in the last few weeks is the reason I haven't written phase 2 of that book yet is because there's a phase 2 to Kim Strobel and what she's learning that will be ready to be shared when it's time. And so again, like you said, we compare ourselves to others. We easily go into that not enoughness mentality. And then just understanding that there is a rhyme and a reason and a flow and an alignment that takes place along this bumpy road of adversities and challenges. So, what does your life look like now because of your ability to be open to understanding energy? And we're going to talk about energy and what that is in a minute, but what's a quick snapshot of what life looks for you now,
I mean,
Suzanne?
honestly, Kim, we're on this journey as long as we're breathing, right? So I'm still on the journey. I just want to put that out there to begin with, and I'm still growing and learning so much. But I am the happiest I've ever been in my life. You can see right behind me, I'm living a dream. I have, for those of you listening, I have floor to ceiling ocean views in this private little cove that looks like a little slice of Europe here. And it's so amazing. I wake up in the mornings and I feel the ocean breeze on my face and I see the dolphins and the whales while I'm meditating. My feet are in the sand every day. I am serving. I am serving in a way that lights me up. I get paid to do what I love. And yes, there are pieces, the tech piece I don't love. There are pieces of my job that I don't love, but for the most part, I'm very lit up and I'm not searching anymore. When I start to feel like I'm searching, I go within. And
Mm.
so having the tools to just feel happy and having the tools to understand energy has changed everything for me. And it's helped me manifest things that it seemed like a pipe dream not that long ago. And so it's quite amazing what you can accomplish. And I've seen this, and I know you've seen it, and I've seen it in my clients' lives too, and I'm sure you have too. And it's such so amazing when we can align our minds with our heart and our energy, what we can create.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so I want to throw this term out because you talked about it in your TED Talk. And by the way, we will link your book and your TED Talk in the show notes because I know that once you listen to this, you're going to want to hear more from Suzanne. And I watched your TED Talk this morning, and it was just so aligned with how I feel about navigating my life right now. But this term physics, can you just explain in layman terms
Yes.
what this is and what it has to do with the law of attraction and what we can attract in our life?
Yeah, so I have a very unique spin on quantum physics, and I want to just have. Sometimes when you say quantum physics, people go, they check out. So everyone, come back to us. you know, um, Basically, what quantum physics means to me is it means the that we can utilize our energy. And so, just to put it in super basic terms, quantum physics proves that everything on this planet breaks down into atoms and molecules. And what that means is that everything has a vibration. So you and I are connected through a vibration, a frequency. Right now, we're on a Zoom link, we're chatting. That's frequency, that's energy, that's vibration. The listeners are either watching or listening. They're dialed in. We get in our cars, we hear a sound. It's coming from a frequency. We don't like it. What do? We change the dial. So we have that same ability with our bodies. So our bodies are always, we have a signal leaving us, and it's based on the way that we feel and the thoughts that we're thinking is the signal that we're sending out. And so what's so cool is just like when we can change the dial on the TV or change the dial in the car, we can change the dial on what we're feeling. And the way law of attraction, and this is what my new book, Quantum Vibes, this is actually what it's about. Everything that we're talking about, it's about the intersection of neuroscience, quantum physics, and law of attraction and how it helps you to manifest. So this is so divine, of course. But so if you think about the law of attraction, you have a signal, you're tuned into that signal, you're plugged into that signal, and then you pull it toward you. So if we're thinking this is never going to work out for us, I'm never going to get there, the money's never going to come, the happiness is never going to come, then that's the signal that you're sending out. But because you're listening to this conversation, I know that that's not what everyone listening is thinking. And so you start to check yourself. What are the thoughts going through my mind? Am I allowing toxic news in my field all day long? Am I allowing gossip in my field? That's a contractor. That's not an expander. Am I allowing low vibe things that don't feel good? Or am I opening up to things that feel good and thoughts that are in alignment with where I want to go? And so, the story that I shared, when I was numbing out, I was just putting a lot of density in my body. I was not, I was sending off the signal that said, I am not worthy. I was sending off a signal that said, don't give me what I want. And I was in that space for long enough to where what was inside of me, like I said, I had a quantum shift. And so when we can start to understand that the thoughts that we think and the energy that we allow in our body and around our body really does correlate and translate into manifesting and into our reality, we could do anything.
Yes. And that understanding that this isn't woo-woo-y. I mean, when I get in my Highlander and turn the radio on to 96.1, it aligns with the frequency of 96.1. And somehow, however crazy it is, I hear voices come through my radio, right? And so what we're talking about, folks, is understanding that your thoughts and the feelings that you have the majority of the time is always sending out to the universe a signal. And then the universe is lining up similar vibrational frequencies to you. So let me give you an example of this. Because I have to catch myself, because you and I aren't perfect at this, but like one of the things that I have had to work on, as I feel like in the last year, I've done deeper work on being able to manifest more in my life. But you know what I had to do, Suzanne? I had to go back inside and start to look at some of the really hard things. Like, I've had some people in my life who have mistreated me and who continue to mistreat me. And I don't always have a lot of control over whether or not they're in my life at times. And I held such bitterness and anger and resentment, and rightfully so, right? But I also knew that those feelings were what we call low vibrational feelings. And the more I stayed stuck on that, the more I was blocking the other goodness that wants to come into my life. And so I had to spend a lot of time trying to work on a mixture of forgiveness and acceptance, and I know you talk about the Hertz scale, and I've talked about that in previous episodes, but explain to my audience really quickly that Hertz scale, and when we're talking about emotions, what we mean by that vibrational energetic alignment with each emotion we feel.
Yeah, I love this scale because it makes it tangible. Like you think about measuring things, and when you're baking, you can measure a cup of sugar, a cup of flour, a cup of water. But this scale brings that tangibility to energy, right? And so the Hertz vibration scale is a scale where it measures our emotions. And so the scale is an upside down V. And at the bottom of the V, the small area where it's contracted is shame, grief, fear, those tenser emotions. And if you just think about shame, what are you usually doing? Your arms are closed, you're looking down, your body is contracted. Now, I want to preface this. I love what you said about you went into the spaces and places of uncomfortability and you learned to forgive. And that is the power. And that is how you slide up that scale, because we're human beings. We're going to have these low vibrational feelings, and we're certainly going to come into contact with them living in this crazy world. And so it's not about, oh, that's bad or that's good. It's about understanding the energy and how to shift it and how to transmute it. And so when we can be in the presence of those low vibrational feelings and emotions and honor them with love and honor them without judgment, we actually free them up so they can be transmuted and leave our body in a way that we can invite some of those higher vibrational feelings in. So the scale, back to it, the bottom, shame, grief, fear. I don't have it memorized exactly, but anger is a good one, because when you're mad, you move the energy. You're like, enough, let's go, So yeah. You move that energy, and then it gets to willingness and acceptance. And when you're acceptance, that's the most powerful. You're willing to see it, you accept it, and then you can start to move up. And eventually you get to the love marker, which is about 500 hertz. And then it's love and joy and enlightenment. And again, we're going to go up and down. I have so many clients and students that say, well, how can I always be in that love? And I say, you're never going to always, if you can get like an 80-20 or 70-30 or even 50-50 for some of us as we're just starting, that for me in 2013, when I was dark night of the soul, if I could get 10% of me in that love energy, that was a win for that day, And so it's about understanding that this is a human journey and understanding we're going to ebb and flow. And the more that we can treat ourselves with empathy and compassion when we're in those lower vibrations, the faster we'll move up and the faster we'll transmute them.
And I love what you said, because I really feel like this is important, because I think at a very young age, well, we even call those feelings like bad emotions, which to me, they're not, or negative emotions.
Right.
We like shame and anger and jealousy and guilt. We say, oh, those are negative emotions, but I don't like to even label them as negative. I just call them heavy. They feel heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that what you're saying is that we don't have to shut those off, because I think so much of the time we're told, like, put your big girl panties on and slap a smile on that face and just focus on all your blessings, sweetheart. And it's like, that doesn't work. We have to have, like you said, the space to be able to go within and allow ourselves to feel what those feelings are, so that we can process them, or they get stuck and then we can move out of that. And so, it's like, okay, so I found myself recently re-triggered again by the people in my life that I feel that don't treat me well. And I got triggered last week, and then I noticed that I felt anger and resentment and bitterness again, but they were like at the 25% level where they used to be at 100. And then it's still popping up at a little bit in my mind, because I'm still a little bit hurt by getting it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep thinking, like, suffering comes when you don't accept that people are as they are and you keep trying to change that situation. And so I've reached a point here, even today, as I was working a little bit with that, because it spiraled up in my mind again. And I'm like, gosh, Kim, I'm like really proud of you. Like, you let yourself feel that, but like it's not near as over encompassing as it used to be. But I also know I have a little bit more work to do in that area, right? And so I really appreciate that you're letting the listeners know there's nothing wrong with feeling those feelings, that you have to feel them to
Yeah,
get
and
through.
thank you for your vulnerability with that. And it's quite beautiful just for you to even say like the growth. And then, when we're triggered as things, and I get triggered at things too, it's showing us like, okay, this is where there's a little more work and a little more space. And I love what you said about, because there is a time, if you're a mom, if you have if you or I, if we're going to walk out on a stage and give a talk, you do got to put your big girl panties on and you show up to be the mom, to be the wife, to be the girlfriend, to be the aunt, the uncle, whatever it is, the motivational speaker. But then you create that space to give yourself, whether it's a journal or whether you go to a retreat or whether you have a coach or a circle or whatever it is, where you can have the space to let go, because that's when you catapult and that's when you shift your energy, is when you create that space to feel and release and really let that next level of your soul come through.
Yeah, and I love that too. I'm thankful that I have my appointment with my spiritual mentor slash counselor tomorrow, because it's just something I need to process a little bit more. And I think reaching out for help in whatever way that looks like is important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to, so you said something in your TED talk as I was watching it this morning, and I just was like, oh my gosh, that's a tweetable quote. You said, you have the ability to embody a frequency that matches your dreams. And you even went on to say that many times, I'm going to find it because I actually wrote it down. You said your job is to engage the highest vibration available to you. The more you can change your feelings, the more you receive circumstances and opportunities that match that feeling. And so, what does that quote really mean? Like, you have the ability to embody a frequency that matches your dreams.
Oh, it's getting good.
I
Okay, so we can create with our energy. We can create with our energy, and most of us don't understand that. We think that we need to push, we need to, Joe Dispenza calls it moving matter with matter, Newtonian physics, which again, in layman's terms, that means, in the physical, you're creating, you're pushing, you're doing. There is a time and space for those things, but that's not the way to create. And so when I said, you have the capability to match a frequency or to embody a frequency that matches your dreams, you can do that in an instant. You might need practice. So what I mean by that is, and this is creating with your energy, and this is everything, this is the basis of everything that I teach, is when you can anchor your energy and you attune your energy to the infinite possibilities, and you attune your energy. I did it with this ocean view behind me without even knowing it. I had it on my vision board. I would get to the ocean whenever I wanted to. I would just visualize and feel it like in meditations. And the next thing you know, I'm living in the middle of my vision board. It's a dream. So for any of you, so Kim, for you right now, what's your, think of a big dream that you've got. And for any of the listeners, think of a big dream, and you start to anchor in and connect your energy to the dream. And so what you're doing is you're attuning your body, you're attuning your frequency so that you are an energetic match to your dreams, regardless of what's happening around you. Where most people go wrong is they look at what's happening around them. Well, but it's not showing up, or this is that. You can't do that. You can look at what's happened in the past. You can look at what you expect. You can look at what you feel worthy of, but you've got to shift your energy and your mindset to go with that. And you hold the vision, 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 and you hold the vision. And then it doesn't look possible. And you hold the vision, and you hold the vision, and you hold the vision some more. And next thing you know, it falls in your lap.
Yes, and it's so true. I mean, I always tell people I'm a runner. I run about 35 or 40 miles a week. And when I run, I'm just so full of inspiration. And I think it's because my body kind of just gets in that rhythm. And I tell people that from 2014 to 2016, before I launched my business, every run I went on, I saw myself launching my business. I saw myself standing on a stage. I saw myself doing all of these things, knowing that I did not have a business degree. I had a teaching degree, knowing that I had zero business sense. But I knew that if I was willing to let my imagination run wild, that your mind actually doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And so the more I can live in the vision of where I want to go, that then my mind starts to shift everything in my external universe, and it starts to find evidence to match this new dream that I have. And people always like, how did you start your business? And like, I had a really famous author 2 weeks ago, and she's like, Kim, I just see what you're doing can I pay you to do some business coaching? Like, how did you do it? And I'm like, honestly, I do it because I live in the imagination of my mind, and then miracles come to me. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff, but you know what I mean? It's like, it is my ability to say, regardless of what my circumstances are right now, I know that my imagination and my higher self can create this amazing possibility for me. And so I'm going to spend time feeling the emotions that it feels like, seeing myself truly be able to make a difference in people's lives, you know? And
Yep.
so I think that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. And Kim, we're not always meant to do this alone. Or it's like, so many people think there's a magic pill or something that you can take instantly. And yes, you can manifest quickly and you can shift your energy. But I've been meditating every day for 7.5 years. And so it's like a muscle that we build. You don't go to the gym and expect to have 6 packs after you work out once. So it's the same with energy. Is like, do a meditation, daily, 10 minutes. I have several free ones that I'm happy to share with your audience as well. And also thinking about, like, where can you get yourself in the space and place that will turn up your energy, that will shift your vibration? So listening to this podcast is a great way. Attending a retreat that calls to your soul. getting just around high vibrational people that, when you're around them, because you come out and you're like, woo, it feels good. So getting around people that inspire you and that encourage you and that like really put you on the path of your soul and not on the path of what you think is possible or what your mind says you can or can't have. So yes, to all of that.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think you said too, is you said one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they go after what they believe they can accomplish instead of what they truly desire. What do you mean by that, Suzanne?
I mean, when you sit down with someone, and I do this all the time, from corporate CEOs to beginner entrepreneurs. And when I sit down with a client, I say, "What is your big dream?" And they tell me, and I say, "No, no, no. That's what you think you can have. What's really your dream?" And then they always are like, "Well, And the question that I ask is, if you had zero limitations, what would you be doing? That will take your mind there. If you had zero limitations, you could do anything you wanted to do, be anything." And I think I did ask that in the TED too. Your mind starts to play there because you're like, well, if I didn't have these two kids, or if I didn't have this person that needed to live here, or if I didn't have this, then you start to dream. And there's always a path to your dreams. I believe that your dreams are given to you from the divine. I believe they're your birthright. And so we've got to be able to, one, admit these dreams to ourselves, feel safe enough to admit these dreams, and then two, let the energy start to align so that creative solutions can come up. But if we are only going after what we believe is possible, we're not even going to come close to tapping into our true potential.
No, I love that. I know in January, I do this workshop once a year called Create Massive Momentum.
Mhm.
And it's learning about the law of attraction. And then also we take time to really look at the different areas, like the 9 different areas of our lives, because I have found, Suzanne, that many times women have been so lost for so long from themselves because they did enter into child rearing and wifing and partnering and their jobs. And it's like sometimes when I ask them about their dreams, they don't even know how to dream. And so a big part of that workshop is we really break down, what is it? What do you dream about when it comes to your business and your career? What do you want for your body physically? What do you want for your relationships? What do you want for your health? What do you want for your romance, your personal development, your fun and recreation? Like, we have to tune in and look at all of these, because once we can really have you evaluate, like, it's amazing during this workshop how they light up, because they're like, oh, I didn't even realize that I have never spent time reflecting on, like, what do I want my spirituality to look like? What do I want my personal development to look like? What do I want my marriage to feel like, or my relationship? And so, that to me is such an aha, because you and I know that as human beings, we have these souls inside of our bodies that are wanting us to go after that very thing that lights us up, that there's so much potential in all of us if we're willing to open ourselves up enough to the possibility of what lies out there for us.
100%. And then align our energy to that, which is, again, it's easier to say than do, but once you figure it out and the more you practice it, then it can get really fun.
And you have a new book out, you said, called Quantum Vibes. And is it out now?
No, so the book I have out now is Girl Awaken, which I was speaking about earlier, and the book that I have coming out will be launching. I believe the publishing date is September 2022. And so this is my first book with a publishing house. So I'm excited about
Oh,
that. And
wow.
it's also my
Fantastic.
first nonfiction book. So this book is called Quantum Vibes, and it's 7 quantum tools to help you live in alignment and on purpose, and to understand how to manifest by using your energy. And so it's the through line of using the law of attraction and understanding the frequency and vibration of quantum physics, and then understanding the neuroscience piece of that too, which means the loops and stories that we run on our conscious and our subconscious mind. And so it's taking all of those things and giving you 7 easy tools that you can implement right away. And there's also a whole workbook at the end, which I've never even seen a nonfiction book that does that, but I felt really called to create a workbook as the last chapter of the book. So that there's you can really dive in and do all of it. So it's a
Yeah.
little, it's a few months away, but I'm so excited. I'm in the throes of writing it right now. When you were talking about your book, what I started to think about for you was, yes, there's two options. And one option is, maybe you still need to experience a few things, but maybe you could just start writing 1 hour a week and see what comes through. And maybe you've already experienced some of those things. And I can relate to what you said because I'm in the thick of writing a book with a deadline. And I'm like, "Ah! Wait a
Yeah.
second. I don't know if this is ready or not, And so it's like, well, it's so exciting. We have to trust. And sometimes, our fear starts to creep in. And when we're writing books, woo, it really turn it up. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm super
Yeah.
excited
I
about
have this, it's funny. I decided that I'm a destination only writer, Suzanne.
that. Mhm.
And I have learned that I really, because I've tried the whole 1 hour a week and all of that. And not to say that I'm totally closed off to that, but like for me, I have to step completely away kind of from work for the most part so I can get into that creativity. But what I do is I like download previous podcast episodes where I talk about what's currently going on in my life, and I use those as the basis for my chapter. But like I said, I was at the mountains last time, and my goal is to do a retreat by myself at the beach. I think I have to go to the beach this next time to write the next 12 chapters.
There you go.
That's what I think. And I call myself a destination only writer. I'm not sure. Maybe that's just to benefit myself as well. Okay. So if people, I love what we've talked about today, and just your realness, that's really important to me. Sometimes I think it's really easy to see people like you and think that you just have it going on all of the time. And you were really crystal clear about that's not true, and that it waxes and wanes. And, you're constantly doing and will be doing the journey and work on yourself forever. So I appreciate that you shared both paradigms there of what it just means to be a human being, and then also how we can control pieces going forward. And so where can people, and I'll put this in the show notes too, but where can people find more of you if they want to learn more about your retreats and those types of things, the programs that you run?
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, Kim. And it is important because there are always ups and downs. And if anyone tells you that they they never have any downs and they have it all figured out, that's probably not the best person to learn from, right?
Yeah.
So my website will have all of my events and everything, SuzanneAdamsInc.com. I'm always on Instagram at Suzanne Adams Inc. as my handle. I love to interact with people on Instagram. So if you're listening to this, send me a DM and tell me your biggest breakthrough. I have several free guided meditations, SuzanneAdamsInc.com/meditations, or I think you have
Yeah.
the link
I'll
to
put those links in.
my favorite meditation is called Turn Up Your Vibes meditation. And it's like a 12-minute meditation and you can just reset it every day. Yeah, check out my TEDx. It's about 16 minutes of powerful mindset shifts and to bring in lots of juicy, good manifesting energy. And what am I missing? I
I
think
will
that's it.
say, as a speaker myself, when you watch somebody else speak, you are like, okay, let's see how good they are. And I have to say, you are good. You are good on the stage. I thought
Thank you.
she's got it going on.
Thank you. Thank you. I love speaking. I'm definitely my most lit up when I have a microphone in my
Yeah.
hand. So, yes, thank you
Me
so much.
too. Me too. Well, thank you for your time today, Suzanne. And again, we'll link everything in the show notes for everyone. And maybe when your book comes out next year, we'll have to do another podcast recording to hear
I love
more
that.
about that.
Yes. Amazing.
Get it. Oh, it's recording again. We don't want to.